Hey everybody, Brett from AstartesGaming here, back with another Mountain Blade 2 Bannerlord developer blog video. It's been a little while, but there hasn't really been a whole lot on the developer blog front. Nothing particularly interesting, except for this one back on the 8th of November about map design. I figured this would be worth covering because it does give some nice insights into some the stuff we can expect from towns, whereas everything else was, mostly Q&As and stuff that really isn't particularly interesting. So let's go ahead and check this one out. Greetings, warriors of Calradia. In the medieval ages, castles and strongholds were not meant to be dwellings, but military tools that were strong and easy to defend, positioned in choke points to protect an important region or trade route. Well, it's interesting that they say that, because technically castles are fortresses that are also an individual person's home. Otherwise, they would be called a fort. A fort is, like a garrison. Not that a castle couldn't have a garrison, but one part of the definition of a castle is that it's, owned by a singular person, and it is also their place of residence. So they were meant to be dwellings, but also military tools. So, anyways, villages, on the other hand, were the population centers, places where people would dwell and sleep after a long day of work in the fields or herding their cattle. Towns were somewhat a combination of the two, but they were also very different and complex places. I mean, this is kind of overly simplified. I mean, it's definitely oversimplifying the matter, because many castles had towns spring up around them because they were, where it was safest. And so castle towns were a very common thing. Tale Worlds, of course, for gameplay reasons, is making everything a very separate and distinct kind of category, because it's easier for them to represent in the game that way. Okay, so they had walls for defense and a high population count, but they were much more than just dwellings and defensive structures. They were the most important places around. Towns are where kingdoms forged their real power. Artisans worked raw materials into quality goods, and merchants turned them into wealth. Courts were established in towns, so they were also the heart and brains of any realm, where politics, conspiracies, and plots took place. And so we get an image of like a marketplace here. I do have that open for you guys to see a little bit better. It's a pretty immersive little marketplace. I do not know which faction this is supposed to be associated with, but based on the architecture, I would say possibly Imperial. Yeah, I want to say it's maybe Imperial. Anyway, I guess we could try to tell by that guard. I can't see him that well, but yeah, that is an Imperial guard. So it is Imperial. But it's a pretty immersive little marketplace, and as far as I'm aware, there should be, people at the stalls that you can walk up and talk to, and you can initiate trade that way, or of course you can do it through the menus. But if you like wandering around towns like you were playing an RPG rather than just going through menus, you have that option. Right, so in Mountain Blade 2 Bannerlord, towns are much like their real world counterparts. They are where industrial goods are produced. Higher quality troops are trained, commerce flourishes, notable NPCs do their dealings, and crime is prevalent. And this is exactly what our level designers try to reflect as they create each town scene. And we do know that named NPCs are going to have a much bigger role in Bannerlord. Recruiting isn't as simple as just, clicking a button in the menu and a random number generator decides how many troops you get based on your relationship with the town. It actually matters now what your relationship is with individual recruiters, and there's several recruiters there, each with sort of a different specialty. So some recruiters will have a lot of low-level troops. Some of them will have more cavalry than the other, or maybe more high-level infantry. And so depending on the type of army you want to build, you're going to need to forge relationships with specific people in order to build it more effectively. We also know that crime is something that you can be a part of now. So there are back alleys in the towns that you can do dealings in, or potentially get rid of criminal elements if it's your town, or if it's somebody else's town, or even if it's yours. You can establish your own criminal enterprise there and try to make money off of it. Or, and this is something I considered maybe doing as a playthrough, trying to become a bandit lord that doesn't hold any town, maybe a castle or something, just so I have a base of operations. But rather than like conquering the whole map, trying to establish criminal enterprises throughout the map and leaving the lords to their folly while I become rich in the underworld. So anyways, in a previous blog, we looked at how we approach map design for castles. We did take a look at that one, which share some similarities with towns. Both have upgradable walls and both can be besieged. However, when it comes to design, towns are a completely different beast. So we got another screenshot here. I have that one open for you guys as well. This is just the front gate of a town from the inside, and we can kind of see the gatehouse above it and a little bit of, you know, the walkway and stuff. This looks to me Volandian in nature. It's got more of that Western European kind of stonework and a lot of the wood, whereas when we saw the Imperial one, you can see that the stonework is a lot lighter, and instead of a lot of wood on rooftops, we see sort of like tiles or shingles, and you know, the architecture here is obviously very different. So as we design the layout of each town, we tend to divide them into recognizable districts so that players can develop an instinct for where they can find what they are looking for. This isn't so much a rule that is set in stone, as we want to stay fluid in our approach to level design, but all of our work on these scenes share similar design principles. Okay, so there's a marketplace. This is where most goods are traded. If you are looking for a shiny new helmet, supplies for a campaign, or perhaps some barding for your horse, then the marketplace will be your first port of call. The marketplace is also where you will find the local blacksmith, where you can design and craft your own melee weapons. So it makes sense that they would have, you know, these sort of things, because that's how real towns work. There would be, you know, a central marketplace where most of the buying and selling took place, because if you were, you know, a merchant in a town, that's the place to be, because that's where people come to look for stuff. And so if you're selling your wares down the street, nobody's ever going to make it to your stall, because everybody's, you know, in the central area. So everybody kind of congregates in one place, and that's where everything happens. So slums and backstreet. Dangerous places where smugglers and bandits gather to make money by illegitimate means, diminishing the resources and taxes of the town. So, as I mentioned before, you can get in on this if you so choose. And so I guess the money is basically siphoned off of the town's overall income. So you probably wouldn't want to establish this in your own. Well, I guess it wouldn't matter. If you did this in your own town, I'm not sure if you'd end up gaining more or less money, or if it's literally just like a one-for-one thing. So instead of earning that money through taxes, you'd earn it through, you know, theft or something. But obviously you can make a lot of money off other people's towns this way. So, you know, maybe setting up criminal enterprises in enemy towns, or again, as I mentioned, trying to just play through as a complete bandit. Keep. This is where you can find the nobles and governor of the town, as well as the prisoners. One day, this is somewhere that you will hopefully get to call home. And then the military district. This is where the town guards and garrison gather, and where troops can be trained. Also, this is where the town's stockpile is located to be used in times of need, such as a defensive siege. And then the tavern. This is where adventurers and drunks alike gather to share their stories over a mug of mead. Some revelers are just a nuisance, others are sell swords that will fight for the right amount of money, and a rare few are companions that will follow you in your ambitions and help you achieve your goals. And we do know that companions can die now, and there is a hard cap of 6, I believe, at the moment. But they do have specific roles that they can fill in your party, and they level up just like the player character does. So that much hasn't changed, but again, they do have new roles that they can fill that give specific bonuses, and you can only have 6 of them. So when the companion dies, you'll have to go find a new one and train them up. I do have this screenshot open as well. So this looks to be just some people checking out the blacksmith's wares. We can see what might be, it's either just a fire pit or maybe part of a forge over there. Yeah, it's probably a forge because there's a bellows right here. And then obviously he's got like chains and other metal wares on the table. And then over here we got some ropes and some other metal pieces. Are those horseshoes? Yeah, I think they're horseshoes. And then all sorts of tools and whatnot. So he's got like pickaxes and stuff for sale over there. All sorts of stuff. But this is where you can come and build your own sword or, you know, whatever weapon you want. I think it's any melee weapon, just not the ranged ones. Not the... Well, melee weapons plus thrown weapons is, I guess, the easiest way to say that. Because we've seen in video clips and screenshots that javelins were customizable. But not, you can't customize your bow or anything like that, at least as far as I know. So, that's cool. Moving on. Gameplay. We understand that no matter how nice and immersive we make our towns look, walking around them creates downtime from your conquering and pillaging. For those of you who would like to rest between your various exploits, we have many small details to explore and discover in our towns. However, for those who are in a hurry, we group interactable NPCs together according to their roles for ease of access for players. And for those of you that don't want to set a single foot in a town, we have the settlement menu where you can access practically every function available in towns directly from the campaign map, barring a select few that we save for immersion. So let's take a closer look at that. So they're in Pravind, which of course is Praven from Warband, and that is held by the Valandians, and that is reflected in the architecture of the little town here, obviously. I think they actually said that these representations on the map actually do reflect the actual layout of the town when you enter them. So you have at least some vague idea of how it looks, albeit one that's, you know, not a perfect one-for-one scale. Anyway, there are people up here that you may want to talk to. You can also do all the things that you could do before. So you can go to the tavern, you can talk to the merchants directly from here, you can talk to the recruiters, go to the arena, go to the keep to see who's there, you know, what nobles. And you don't even need to go find the blacksmith, you can literally craft an item from the menu. So by and large, everything that you'd want to do is available from right here. Okay, so sieges also play a big part in the design of a town scene. This comes both with technical and gameplay limitations, but also with opportunities. Small roads and buildings around town gates add variety to gameplay when the town is under siege. However, a shop that is filled to the brim with many intricate pieces of pottery would add performance complications. Our solution is to have a siege state for our scenes, which is easily achievable with our map editor. When a player deploys into a town that is under siege, they are greeted by deserted streets. The marketplace closes down, taking all of the colorful and fine goods with it. Shops bar their doors and barricades are raised in the streets to help with defenses. And so we can see that here. On the left, we have the civilian state, where, you know, we've got like melons and I'm not sure what these are supposed to be. There's some pottery over there, some meat hanging in the butcher's shop, and just kind of, you know, goods scattered around. Stuff looks open. And then over here, we see that the shops have been boarded up. This stand has apparently been burnt to the ground. Maybe some of that wood has been used for these barricades, and they have little cutouts so you can fire through them. Although with clipping planes, that might not be so easy. But we do see a definite difference. Certainly a much less friendly and inviting environment there. And so this method not only helps us create immersion and ease the load on performance by removing elements that are unnecessary for a combat scene, but it also gives us more flexibility with our design. We can barricade off roads that are not related to siege gameplay to reduce over complexity, or close shortcuts that might give unnecessary advantage to either side, while creating new choke points that would look out of place when there is no conflict. That makes sense. So you wouldn't really want to have to run around the entire town map to finish a siege. And so making sure that the battle kind of takes place in strategic points and doesn't just kind of spread out all over town is definitely, you know, a welcome addition. They sort of did that in Warband as well, although the siege maps were severely limited in that regard. But again, it's still a welcome sight to see here. So overall, we try to design our town scenes to be believable and immersive, but also to complement gameplay. We want players to be easily able to navigate the world, either through their player character or through UI elements such as menus, and experience the sandbox in a way that they want to. So whether that be the immersion of running through the towns like in an RPG, or by getting in and out as quickly as you can through just the menus. And then we have one final screenshot of a beautiful city. And again, this looks to be Imperial by the tiled roofs and the stonework. And this place is utterly massive. I can't imagine running around and exploring this on foot. It would be a lot of fun too, but it would take forever if all of this is traversable, which it kind of looks like it might be, but who knows? So, let's see, what is their closing stuff? In next week's blog, we will talk to animator and motion capture artist Abdullah Nakipoglu. If you have any questions you would like to ask him, blah, blah, blah. Okay, and that is already up. I didn't find it particularly interesting, so I'm not going to cover it. However, there is going to be another one up tomorrow, and if that is interesting, I'll cover it at some point in the following week. So, I'm pretty pleased with what we're seeing here. There are more rumors circulating that we might be seeing early access in the coming months of 2019. I know better than to believe that at this point, so we'll see. It'd be nice, but I'm not going to hold my breath. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I had a great time talking about some Bannerlord with you, and I look forward to seeing you guys back here for the next video.